Good evening, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and this show is brought to you by our friends at Massage Magazine Insurance Plus. Massage Magazine has been exploring touch therapies for over 25 years and has used that industry knowledge to develop the best value liability insurance in the business. Welcome, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and tonight we have a special guest, Lisa Nemzo. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi there.
Hi. So we're going to be talking about polarity therapy tonight. So can you give us a little what brought you into polarity?
Well, I was a massage therapist in the beginning of my illustrious career, and I was very much interested in why my clients would feel so much better after my massage, and yet the next week they'd have the same issue going on. So I started to ask questions like, how come the shoulders held this way, and that kind of thing. And I got an invitation to a free intro from Gary Strauss when he was commuting between New York City and LA, and I went, and it was exactly what it was that I wanted to get into, which was finding the origin, understanding the body, the physical body, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual body, and treating all of it and learning how they talk to each other and how one affects the other. And so I was very ignited by that and signed up and started to study with him.
And you've been hooked ever since then, right?
I started because I needed a lot of healing and a lot of help. And I had suffered from what we didn't call it then. We didn't call it PTSD, you know, the post-traumatic stress disorder. I just had a lot of issues, let's just put it that way. And so I really went to heal myself. I really never thought, I think after I finished my APP, which is the associate practitioner level, I never thought of being a practitioner. I was a massage therapist, but I was mostly in the rock and roll world, and so it was better than catering for me. So, Gary sat me down afterwards and said, "Are you going to take your advanced courses?" And I said, "I'd like to." And he said, "Have you thought about, being a practitioner?" And I just said, "No." And he said, "I think you'd really be a good practitioner." And I just sort of blankly stared at him. I didn't have any response, and he said, "Is there any reason why you wouldn't?" And I said, "Well, why would I?" And he goes, "Well, you could help a lot of people." And I mean, that's how disconnected I was back in the day. I was just trying to get myself well. And he said, all that you've gone through, just imagine if you had had this help all the way through your childhood or through your teens or so forth, and what a difference that would have made for your life, in terms of quality. And it just really, I think he just pierced something, in a good way, and I started to think about very seriously becoming a practitioner and then an educator, and that's really how I got involved in all this.
Yeah. And for myself too, I mean, I never really experienced PTSD before until this year at the Boston Marathon. I was actually right across from where the first bomb went off, and actually tape that second bomb going. And the thing is, I think I felt feelings of PTSD afterwards for a few months and stuff, but luckily I got help right away, just because I've been seeing so many things on the internet about it, and so many people contacted me, get help now kind of thing, just to be safe. So
it does make a difference if you can get to it sooner than later, but even if you get to it later, you can make huge headway with, at least with the polarity and the transcendental meditation. Those are two things that I went into, and it immediately made a difference for me. So, yeah. And it makes a difference for other people as well.
Yeah, definitely. And do you still practice massage then, or is it mostly polarity based then?
If somebody comes in to my practice and they get injured, I have a great background in sports massage, and I know what to do. I have have my arsenal of my bin of all the analgesic bombs and dragon bomb and all these great stuff, and I know how to treat somebody for that. So I'm I don't really do massage therapy all the time anymore, but I do it enough so that it's, you know, it's fresh for me, and I incorporate it in the Polarity as well.
And then how'd you get involved with veterans then?
Well, I've had a lot of friends who were in the Vietnam War and have been suffering from Agent Orange, you know, after effects. I've seen it firsthand. They've also, I've had clients come in, and it has been devastating to see this. And I've also heard their stories about how, I don't want to get into the politics of everything, but it's been difficult for them to get the treatment that they need. And, you know, there hasn't been anything particularly for the PTSD symptoms that they've been suffering from until this war. The Iraq and Afghanistan wars have really brought this to the forefront. And I think that, anyway, I think that was part of it. And also, I'd seen an HBO special in 2011. I'd seen a special that was on, I think it was CNN, and they were showing a snippet of this long history piece that was on Arlington. And it was about a mom who lives in Elmsford, New York, and she drives to Arlington 3 or 4 times a year to visit her son who was killed in Iraq. And they did this very short segment on her where she brings flowers and she brings his favorite childhood story, and then they cut to the gravestone where she's reading it, and I'm on the couch. I'm like totally emotional at this point. And then they end. She said into the camera, I do this because I don't want him and anybody else to be forgotten. Then the narrator ends with, what did he say? He said, some say Arlington is the saddest acre in America. And I don't know what went off, something went off in me, and I was in my studio writing this song. And, you know, I had some help with a lyricist friend of mine, Artie Colatrella, to finish the lyric, and he said, you have to do a video on this. It's not enough to write the song, you have to do it. So the story is, I mean, the lyrics are about that story, about the mom and her trek to Arlington, and much more. And as it turns out, I ended up doing a video, and by it getting screened in New York City, I met Bob Roth from the David Lynch Foundation, and they said, let's partner up with Operation Warrior Wellness and see if we can get as much help to the veterans and their families through the teaching of TM and having that be given for free. So we paired up and did that and raised as much money as possible so that we could offer that. And I have 3 or 4 people that I know in LA that I just in the last 6 months have, and for the first time in some cases in 30 years, they're not waking up in the middle of the night searching for helicopters and searching through their house, and they're really being able to sleep through the night. And I've been keeping tabs with everybody, and some from the Iraq War who are far less suicidal. They're starting to actually feel like things are returning to some semblance of normalcy, and this is just in a couple of months after suffering for many years. So, and then polarity work, that has a tremendous impact on the nervous system, repatterning the brain and being able to release trauma. It's a really powerful tool. So I've been using all of that in combination, and it's making a huge difference. I mean, the idea of having 18 to 25 suicides a day is unacceptable.
That many now? Oh.
Unacceptable. It's more than we lost during the war daily on some days. It's not okay. So I felt like I had to do something. My medium is music and songwriting first, and then I've been involved in polarity. So I'm doing both. But at some point, the one-on-one, especially right now when we have a whole generation of people coming through that are having problems, it's not enough, so the outreach had to be bigger. So I did something on a larger scale. So.
Yeah, and didn't Arlie? He passed away. Was it 2011 then, right?
September 2nd. He was part of the health care debacle. You know, he didn't have insurance and didn't have a lot of things, and instead of them treating him as they normally would have, he went to county hospital, and they he had renal cancer, but they caught it really early, and instead of giving him radiation, they sewed him up and sent him home and never did anything. He would be alive today if they had done that.
Yeah, because I watched some of the videos he did with them and stuff, and
yeah,
they were very nice.
Thank you very much. I miss him a lot. I mean, he's been in my life for a long, long time, and I mean, I feel him around for sure. But when I really want to complete a lyric or have somebody write a lyric, and I'm writing the music, I mean, he was always my first choice.
Yeah. So he helped you write that, the lyrics for that, then, right?
Well, Arlington came out in like this barrage of music and lyrics, just like I had very rarely had that happen, but I was so moved by this piece that I had seen. But I couldn't get the pre-chorus 4 lines from there, and I couldn't get a couple of verses completed. I needed poetic. I had the right ideas, and it was close, but I couldn't finish it. And so I ended up, we were in touch every day, and I just said, I've got this song. I don't know, I can't finish it. Do you want to help me finish it? And he said, wow, I've just had 2 shots of morphine, and I'm a little out of it, but why don't you play me the music over the phone? And we were Skyping. And I said, okay. And so I played him the music and sang him the lyric. And I don't know how he did it, but all of a sudden he said, what about these 4 lines? And he read them out loud. They were perfect, and they were poetic and beautiful, and then we worked on the other 2 stanzas, the verses, and got those together, and it wouldn't be the same if he hadn't contributed. It was incredible. And that was the last song we wrote together. Amazing.
And he wasn't able to see the final version then? Or?
No. I was trying so hard to finish it before, I didn't know he was going to go. I mean, I knew he wasn't well, already, but September 2nd was September 2nd in 2011, and we didn't start filming until October.
Oh.
So it's so close, but he's watching it from somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, and your video got over 1 million views so far too. It's just like
it's 1,200,000 or something, and still going. And I've had so many, people from the military tweet me about it and ask me about it, and I'm in dialogue all the time with everybody. So it's been a great door opener and a piece that I think is going to have a long life.
Yeah, and I definitely became a groupie of yours after I saw that too and stuff. It's
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just loved it. And
I actually had friends watch this recently, over the weekend actually, that hadn't seen it. And it was so funny because I left. Sometimes I can't watch it, or I don't know. I get embarrassed if people are watching it. And anyway, I went and came back after it was sort of done, and they had watched it a couple of times, and they said, we thought, how amazing that Lisa found somebody that looks that much like her to play the mom. My uncle did the same thing. Several of my cousins did the same thing, and I was just like, hello, I have pink hair. I mean, how can you not notice that's me? French twist, really weird conservative clothes for me, but still, it's still me. But they didn't realize it was me at all. It was. What can I say?
Yeah. And has polarity therapy and singing overlapped a lot, would you say, or are you able to separate the two, or?
Well, this is the most common question I get. That was a great question, but the most common question I get in interviews is, do I sing to my clients? And like whip out my guitar and start, running around my treatment room or something, and no, I don't. So I have kept those worlds very separated, but they've really merged because in a lot of ways, like I said, affecting one person at a time, it's very meaningful to me. But there's a call, at least I feel a call, to be affecting far more people as quickly as possible because of a lot of the circumstances that we have. So I've really merged those. In other words, I've shared my video with clients. I have definitely started to talk about my being a practitioner and an educator, in the forums that are more in the music business, so to speak. So they're merging. My worlds are merging, and I think it's a good thing.
Yep. And have you made music for polarity therapists then too at all, or?
One of the conferences, I don't know if I have this memory correctly, but the former president Tammy Vaughn, I think it was she that put together a collage of photographs and of memorabilia and so forth. And if I'm wrong, please forgive me for who I've forgotten that did this. It was wonderful. But I put together an instrumental, a couple of instrumentals, and had them put that in the backdrop for all the collage, and it was really good. And I thought, wow, I should do instrumental music and put together a CD, but I haven't. That takes time, and I haven't done it yet. But it's on my docket of things to do in 2014. Let's put it that way.
But then it would kind of miss your beautiful voice then too.
Well, thank you. but I think that the instrumentals would be good for. It's not distracting at all. Maybe I'll do a few oohs and ahs or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah. But anyway. So.
Yep. And then what is your hope to establish more polarity groups and stuff?
After Arlington came out, and being on the board of directors for APTA, which is the American Polarity Therapy Association, I started to think, after one crisis after another, whether it was the shootings, or whether it was a hurricane, or other natural disasters, or things where there are a lot of people called in, Red Cross, fire department, police. I thought, we need to do something in our polarity community regionally, so that we have, well, I'm trying to think of, I guess, regional responders, which would be, let's just say something happens in North Carolina or in Los Angeles area. There's a group of polarity practitioners that are trained with a specific protocol to come in and relieve the first responders, treat them so they can go back in and do their level of expertise without getting so overly fatigued and taxed. And I think that we could be an incredible asset to, across the country and internationally as well, in any natural disaster or a crisis, if there was a shooting and people are traumatized. And we need to do this, and I'm very passionate about it. I have creative ideas. I'm not the best organizer, although once I have all the components, I'm really good. But right now we're really doing a lot of research, finding out what the Red Cross what they require, so that we would be able to meet those requirements and be able to be infused into their line of people that they could use. And I'd like to be able to do that. It's definitely something I'm going to follow through with. And of course, I can't do this alone. I need volunteers. I need other people with expertise.
Yeah, definitely.
So it'll be a team effort to do that.
Yeah, I can definitely speak from experience too. I mean, after the Boston bombing and stuff, I mean, for 48 hours, I was just adrenaline going and stuff, and it was afterwards, it just felt like all of this fuzz,
Well, can you imagine if there had been a team of people coming in and just going from one person to another person to another person, being able to administer to many people at once, and then having, I think this is, part of one of the things that spurred this on was we had a 1994 earthquake. It was the Northridge quake in Los Angeles, and I had just literally driven from Washington State back to LA to start my advanced studies, and we had that earthquake, and everybody was traumatized in the city. Not just one few people that got the people that got their houses, demolished or businesses demolished, but everybody was traumatized. And what Gary Strauss did is he called on 40 of the practitioners that he knew, and he had a healing circle for us. So we administered to one another, and it was so powerful. Then we were able to feel like we were much more grounded and to go back out and be able to help other people in our community. We weren't doing a very good job prior to that, and he was brilliant in that idea, and that's what I thought, why not expand on that and do that in all regions so that we have people being able to administer to the communities wherever we're needed.
Yeah, that's so nice.
It's a service. It's not that we need to get paid to do that. There may be money that comes in to support that, but it's not really the driving force. The driving force is to be able to offer that, and through doing that and giving of service, people say, well, what are you doing? And then you get a chance to communicate, well, this is it's called Polarity, and explain that to somebody who's never even heard of it, and say, and that's how the word gets out, and it's much more organic that way than I think any other way, really. And you get an experience. When you get an experience, there's nothing more than experiential, experience to be able to have that in your body and be able to know that works for me. And that's very powerful. That's really powerful.
Yes,
that's Dr. Randolph Stone's work, and that he's the founding father of Polarity. So that was his premise all along.
No, I can't remember. Is he still teaching or still around then too, or?
He passed away.
Sorry.
He passed away. He had a long life, and I don't know whether it was. I think it was 1984, and he just was inducted into the Massage Hall of Fame in August on the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. It was a very honorable moment for me. I went to the ceremony and received the honor and the award on behalf of APTA, and we now have a plaque, and it was very meaningful, and specifically meaningful to me, because I feel like it has saved my life and changed my life, given me a foundation. I mean, I don't even do my music with the same attitude as a result of being involved in Polarity. It's really about service rather than ego-driven, which God knows I had plenty of years of that. So, but, it's changed things for me, and I think it's important that gets, that service gets shared with other people.
And are there grants available then too?
Well, we are in the process. I mean, like for instance, in putting together regional responders, I think that we could very much apply for grants around that and get some assistance, which I think would be extremely helpful. And I think there are other areas that that grant money is available for that as well, and we're looking into it. We have a lot of projects very passionately involved in, we have lots of committees and lots of various things that we're working on. So.
And what do you love about being on the board then?
I love working with other people. So it's a team effort. Everybody on the board is supportive and feels like we make progress and then share different committees, and we're working together toward many common goals. And it feels like we're representing the membership on one in one portion of it, and in the other portion we're representing the foundation, which is more branding and marketing and those kinds of things. So we're really covering a lot of areas, and we have a really good group of people.
Yep. And then with what are some of the functions of the organization then?
The functions?
Yep.
Let's see. Well, you mean what kind of committees do we have, or what's its function in the first place?
Yeah. So what does it do? I mean, what kind of things do you discuss, and what kind of things do you go over?
Well, we discuss what's really going to work and be for the benefit of the membership. What is, we have put several surveys out, what's important to the membership, and then it's our job to manifest that, keep the membership flowing. We have a conference coming up in September of 2014 in Mount Madonna, which is in Northern California, and we always have lots of new techniques to share and workshops and keynote speakers, and so we keep revitalizing the membership, and then they go out to, some of them are, run schools, so they're also revitalized, and goes into their private practice. And the board talks about all kinds of things. Some of it is really, for me, and I'm just gonna, please excuse me, board members. There's a lot of talk about policies and Robert's rules and administration and education and all kinds of things that are very, very important. Where my expertise is fundraising and marketing and branding and sort of the outreach of into the community and so forth. So we all have different gifts, and I marvel at the people who are really good at policy. I'm learning as I'm going, but there are some people that are just brilliant at it, and we need that. We need to have all that. And we're working on certification, which is a very exciting portion of it. I can't really say too much about it right now, but we have a lot of things that are going to be coming through in 2014. Very exciting expansion. So
can you give us a little nuggets about it?
I think I just did. In other words, they're going to be. I think they're going to be. There's a standardized testing that we're working on, so that we have far more consistency, even than we already do, in terms of levels of expertise coming out of all the schools. I mean, that's very important, and that's one aspect. Another aspect is really getting legislature through so that we are, like acupuncture, chiropractic, we're recognized, and we are able to be taken seriously for insurance and so forth. And I mean, there's a lot of things that we're working on, and you'll just have to wait and see. Are you? I'm just curious. Are you a Polarity practitioner? Or are you involved? You sound like you're involved in the healing arts for sure.
Yeah, I've been a massage therapist for 17 years now.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I've taken like healing touch and those different kind of classes, but there hasn't been any really Polarity therapy up in this area yet. So. Well,
the associate program, the APP program, is an incredible adjunct to massage. And that's how I got into it, because in massage they don't really teach you how to deal with emotional upheavals that might happen on your table or whatever. And there's communication, and there's all kinds of communication, basic, intermediate, advanced, that really allows you to, do a lot more. I'm not saying a lot more that's better, or it's just an expansion of the toolbox that you have when you're doing massage. And ultimately, when you're doing good work, you have your client is going to have an experience on the table, and you want to be able to have that be a maximum benefit for them. So the APP program, I hope that where are you in the country that you don't have any Polarity
Minnesota.
I know Minnesota. Like where and where are you?
Rochester, Minnesota.
Rochester. Are you anywhere? Well, you know what? I'm going to actually be coming to. Where am I coming to? Is it St. Paul, Minneapolis? I think it is. At some point, probably in the summer. And I'm going to be teaching some classes, so you never know.
Yep, definitely.
You never know. We have to get that. We have to get that going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you mentioned earlier about it being like the whole body, mind, motion, and spirit, and stuff like that. Did you realize that in the beginning when you first got into polarity therapy, or did it take a while to really connect all that?
Well, in the intro, they talk about the feet, not like reflexology, but they talk about the meridians, like the wireless anatomy that goes through your whole body. Like if you could see your body in energy, you would just look like a series of freeway systems, and you could see where certain pathways are too narrow, or some things are blown wide open, or there's just complete blockage in some places. And the idea that you can move the energy through by working on the feet and working on certain places in the ankle was just mind-blowing for me, because you could see where you could see where everything was connected, so that you would be, say somebody comes in and they have a lot of fear and they're stuck. Let's just say just those two things alone. And they're telling you stories about how they're stuck and how they're afraid of things. All I need to know is that information, and I'm going to work on their little toe, which represents earth and fear and security and stuckness. And I work all the points that go in that meridian, which is that line that goes down the little toe, and it goes underneath the knee and underneath the sacrum in the SI joint and underneath the back of the neck. And you don't do it quickly, but you work all those points and several other things that I'm not mentioning. And all of a sudden, you finish that side and you say, how do you feel on your right side versus your left side? And they'll say, without any question, they'll say, ooh, I feel heavier. I feel like I can feel my body, and I'm not feeling anything on the left side, which you haven't worked on. And then when you get finished and they're balanced, they actually are more in their body. You're unwinding the fear without necessarily having to process something specific. And they will move through the emotional components. The body knows what to do if you can open it up and be working in that whole realm. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely does.
But it's very powerful work, and if there's everything from the nervous system work, which is barely touching the body, barely touching, and into the earth work, or fire work, which is very tamasic. It's very deep and sort of disruptive, depending on what the person needs. And so it's touching the emotional, touching the mental body, which is much more, of your consciousness or your spiritual, that ether realm, or the physical. And they all interact. They're all interacting all the time. Or if they're not, then by the time you're done, they are interacting and communicating again, which is a feeling of wholeness and feeling a good feeling.
And is there different levels of polarity therapists then too?
Sure. There's basic 1, there's basic 2, so in other words, that's part of the associate program. It's called the APP program. I highly recommend it for any massage therapists, nurses, practitioners who want an adjunct to what they're already an expert in. This is an incredible asset to it. But that's your first level. Then you can go into the RPP, which is the Registered Polarity Practitioner. Those are your advanced courses. There's also an intermediate. I think there's a basic and intermediate course that goes into the APP program. And then there's the advanced courses. And then you get your educational teacher training program. Then there's and then there's master practitioner programs. So there's many different levels. that you can study. I studied. I was slow though. I really wanted to. I was slow because I was also not living in LA, so I was having to come back and forth. But I studied for a long time and many hours. I have no regrets. It was really good. I really deeply. I think that slower, getting that information. I remember John Boyer said to me. He said after studying body trance counseling, which is a whole language unto itself. Oh, hold on a second. Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry to do this. I'm running on. Not sure why this is not on, but there we go. Great. We had a. I'm just going to do a sidebar here. We had a power outage, a forced power outage today, and I had to turn off everything in my studio and my computer. And I realized just now that I had turned everything on except for the electrical strip that actually had my computer in it, and it just said reserve battery power almost out, and it was going to go dark. I was like, and we're talking about energy. I was just like, hello. So, anyway, I'm good. So my computer's now plugged in, saved by the bell. Anyway, where was I?
But it took you a while to go through the whole process and stuff. Of education.
I think it was just important that I was saying something. I think I had gone further. I'd gone past that place, but anyway, I think it was important to study as long as I did it with as many hours as I did. I think it's very important to be able to have that experience. Oh, I know, body trance counseling. It's a language that John Boyer, it's his class. It is the one of two things that changed everything for me immediately after taking the class. Spinal balancing was one of them because I needed that myself. But that really ignited me, and the other piece was body trance counseling. He said to me, he said, after your 500th session using body trance counseling, he said, you will then barely be scratching the surface.
Yep, and I even heard that with massage too. So you look at your first 1,000 massages you give as practice, basically.
Exactly, exactly. And so and it's been thousands for me since then, but it's very powerful. But anyway, that's something that you also learn, and it helps. It helps.
And
communication.
Do you teach around the United States then?
I have developed some master classes. I'm not particularly. I don't want to say something really bad about myself. I'm not the right. I don't think that I'm really good at teaching rudimentary beginning things. Although I've been told I am. I need to. I don't know. It's just my tendency is to go toward the master practitioners and being. I've developed a lot of amalgams on my own, really based in Dr. Stone's work primarily, and then moving into things that I've discovered work with my clients and work with myself, that kind of thing. And so I have taught here in LA. I have definitely taught in the conferences in Potomac and also in Chicago, where we had some conferences, and I do teach. I do teach at several schools, but I'm not a teacher per se. I haven't gone that route.
Yeah, and then with polarity therapy, is there anything that contraindicated for using it then?
Say I'm sorry.
Is there any ailments or problems that are contraindicated that polarity therapy shouldn't be used then, or?
Oh, you mean are there any things where polarity would be dangerous or something? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I think you need to know what you're doing, no matter what, massage therapy or polarity work. I think that you need to be educated. If you don't know, if somebody comes to you and has something that you don't know about, you need to educate yourself before you do pretty much anything. For instance, stroke patients. You need to know what you're doing. Pregnant women, you need to know what you're doing so you're not pressing in on the ankles. You know, there are certain points you don't want to press in on, but you need to be educated. I think that's true. There's nothing that I can think of where polarity would not be helpful, including stroke patients. Yep. Incredible asset. I remember working on my father, actually, after he had a massive stroke when he was 52 years old. And he had shortness of breath and a lot of other issues, not right afterwards, because that was, but many years afterwards. I worked on him. I did cranial sacral on him, and his breathing changed. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he said, "What is that? What did you do to me?" He says, I can breathe and I'm not out of breath. I thought, I wanted to say, I have no idea. I don't know. I just did the protocol. I just followed the protocol. I'm learning it. So I'm just trying it out on you. And it made a marked difference in his breathing. I honestly don't know to this day what happened. I was so thrilled that it worked, or that it made him feel calmer. I'm sure it had to do with his nervous system and what was getting. Look, in a stroke, you blow out some parts of your brain. You have a hemorrhage in your brain, so that part of your brain isn't really working. You have to make new synapses. You have to make new memories, new places. So, my guess would be that the cranial work would have really helped maybe start the hemispheres communicating better and maybe calm down some of the trauma that the stroke caused. That's what I would say now that I'm thinking about it out loud. And it was profound. I mean, profound that he laid down after being one way for many, many years, and after I did a simple protocol that I was just simply learning. Wasn't an expert in it by any means, just brand new at it. And he got up, and for days afterwards, he was better.
And some things we just can't explain, kind of thing. They just happen. It's like
we don't know a lot about stroke. Yeah. We don't know a lot about the brain. We're learning and learning and learning right now. All I know is that it was incredibly powerful, and cranial sacral is part of. I mean, it's a very different way. It's taught very differently in Polarity than it is like Upledger's Institute is. Their approach is much more I don't want to use the word invasive, but it is invasive. It is much stronger. It's more aggressive, and the way that I was taught cranial sacral work was much more sophic, much more letting the body find its rhythm and unwind against the holds that you have, rather than you coming into the brain or coming into the bones of the head or the bones of the face and really just moving them because they are movable, really allowing the body to find its own rhythm and really unwinding on its own, which I really subscribe to that. I like that a lot. It works.
And do some people incorporate other modalities into a Flirty therapy treatment, or is it better just to have it separate? Or?
I think it works either way. If you're just strictly, let's say you can't really study just Polarity these days. You need massage to be part of your arsenal of hours and so forth. But I think that it's an incredible adjunct to acupuncture, to chiropractic, to RNs, to massage therapists. I mean, I just can't think of anything where it wouldn't be an incredible asset. The tricky part for psychotherapists, and they're really wanting to break through and being able to use certain pieces of Polarity, is that in states you're not allowed to touch your client. That's against the law.
Oh.
It's against the law to touch your patient when you're a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. So I guess people are getting their licenses. They're getting dual licenses and being able to. They have to keep their practices separate. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's an interesting dilemma that they have.
Yep, and I know this one psychologist where he'll only work on certain areas of the body, kind of thing, like half an hour of that and half an hour of
Sure.
counseling and stuff. So like on the back or certain areas and stuff, and then go into the counseling afterwards, kind of thing. But but that's what kind of guidelines he made for himself and stuff for those things.
I think that's wonderful. Doctors, I think everybody should learn it. I think everybody should learn Polarity.
and then is there do you guys have, when's your national conference then? Do you have it every year then, or?
We haven't, but we're having one September 2014. It'll be the 30th anniversary of APTA, which is pretty incredible, actually. And it'll be in Mount Madonna, which is somewhere sort of close to Santa Cruz, south of San Francisco, in the boonies. We always love the boonies for some reason. We went to Chicago, and that was in a hotel, and then we went to Potomac, and that was in another sort of hotel sort of thing. And we do fine there, but I think everybody really loves to get out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
It'll be indoors. It's not going to be outside in tents or anything like that.
Yeah, at least it should be decent temperature during that time too, right?
Yeah, it'll be beautiful. It'll be a great conference. We're going to have fantastic keynote speakers. We're going to have a lot of exciting new protocols, and we'll have a lot of great workshops. You know, we're working on it right now.
And how many days is it then usually? Or?
Well, I don't have the dates in front of me. Probably 4 days, maybe 4 or 5 days.
Okay. And then you guys have continuing education classes during that time too, then, or? Absolutely.
Everything that you take is, toward you can get your educational. You have to get 12 credits of furthering education every year.
Yeah.
I think that's about right. And so, if you take any of the workshops, that'll be credit for you.
Okay. And then with polarity therapy too, where do you see it can be advanced even more then?
Where do I see it advancing even more?
Yep. I mean, you can see it possibly getting into hospitals even more and stuff, but what I hope is that it becomes I said, like chiropractic or like acupuncture, where it's recognized. It's not something that's so mystical that it's hard to relate to. I think that when I've traveled to Europe, and there is so much more openness about energy work, and I mean, there's radionics over there. There's so many different things that we don't have here because there's been such a stigma. So I think not just in polarity, it's just anything alternative. So what I'm hoping, and APT is hoping, and the membership is hoping, that we're hoping that there are more schools, there are people getting more education, that it's becoming much more mainstream, that it is offered in hospitals, it is offered in conjunction with cancer, PTSD, injuries, car accidents. I mean, it is already, but much more widespread. Yes, definitely. Yeah. So for all these modalities too, I mean, everybody knows about massage kind of thing, but now it's all these different modalities to get out in the average public more. And is it hard to talk? Explain to a client about polarity therapy? I mean, do you have like a 60-second elevator speech that you tell them, or?
I think that everybody is different. I sometimes will get a client who's been referred to me for the fact that they have chronic pain, and they've gone as far the PT has gone, whether it's Pilates or physical therapy, they've just gone as far as they can go. And they don't know anything about energy work. So I have to change my language, and I have to meet them where they're going to understand things. So I don't have an elevator speech. I really have to suss the person out first and really find out what they're looking for. And all they want to know is, can you help me? And I need to listen to what it is that's going on with them. And then my answer is usually, yes, I can. And then I will tell them that we'll work together, and I will look for the origin of where this all started in you, and all the symptoms that you're bringing in. Once we start treating the origin of this, which could come from somebody's childhood, could come from an earlier accident, it could come from abuse, it could come from war, other traumas. Once that piece is identified and we start working in that, then all the symptoms that they're suffering from begin to lose their grip, and they begin to unwind on their own. And it's really a beautiful thing to watch, where somebody starts to really begin to get much more related to their wholeness and their health and feel like they can have their life back. It's a really very rewarding.
And our treatments usually 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 90 minutes? Or
They're usually an hour. Sometimes mine are 90 minutes. Half an hour, not so much. I can get a lot done in a half an hour, but you can get, the normal time is 60 minutes.
Okay. And then do you see more, even more advanced programs for polarity therapy in the near future then? Or?
I think that as practitioners, I'm considered I've been in doing this for a long time. I want to take classes still that teach me things, that keep me fresh, that excite me about the work. And it's never boring to study Dr. Stone. He was such a pioneer and an innovator. His work is still inspiring to me and to all of us. But I do believe that as we're developing, like I've developed a lot of my own protocols that are very specific for sciatica, for instance, or whiplash, that's very different than anybody else that I know. And so I want to impart that. I want these things, I want the body of work to grow for all of us. And so that's what the idea of the conference is, where we can share a lot of what we're doing with other people. So we are all growing all the time.
Yep.
Right? Isn't that that must be important to you as well, right?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Because the thing is too, I mean, we can't get stuck in one thing all the time too. I mean, it's nice that you're kind of trying out different things, and then you're actually sharing your information with other people too. And some people are just so protective of their information. So
there is that element. There's no question. It's all based in fear and limitation thinking, and I don't really subscribe to that. I can't wait to share things that I know that work. I want to see that expand out and other people using it. Somebody can teach me something that will work with my clients. I am thrilled about that. I think it's very communal. I think that's more communal rather than nuclear, like the nuclear family versus communal. I think that we need each other right now. I think that we need to be working together in teams and in community. It's the days of the individual and just being sort of alone and, queen or king, I think that's just so over. We're in the age of Aquarius, where we're supposed to be working together.
Yes, I'd love to see that happen more and stuff.
Me too.
Yep. And then the $1 million question is, when is your next album coming out?
In the last 2 years, I've been producing. I've been producing other artists and other bands, and I co-write, and I've been doing a lot of writing. And of course, I did Arlington, the film. So I know I'm getting a little pressure from my fan base, like when, when, and I don't know yet, but I'll just take that under consideration.
I'll keep bugging you too, okay?
You can. It'll probably work. It's probably the only thing that'll get me going. So.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
You've been fun. You've made it fun. So I very much appreciate it, and very nice to meet you.
Yep. Thank you, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a great holiday.
Yeah.
Safe and.